Okay, this is Algebra 2, Lesson 9. And this is on percent and word problems. Basically, we learned in the past, how do you do percent? Part over whole times 100. And we usually did it up to 100%. This time, we're going to learn about, what if we had 130% or 193%? More than 100%. So let's look at one. So if I say, then 30% of the number means 30 of these parts. If I have 193%, it's going to be 193 of the parts, 100 plus 93. So let's take 242, for example. If I take that example and I divide it into 100 parts, remember you simply move the decimal over 2 times, you get 2.42. This is not a very dark marker. You get 2.42. So that's 100%. Now, if I want 30% of 242, I would do 30 times 242, which would give me 72.6. Now, what if I wanted, likewise, 193%? It would be 193 times 2.42, which simply gives me 467.06. Alright, so we basically did, on this one we did 30 over 100. We use our formula, remember, part over whole times 100, or simply a fraction of a number equals the part. So 30%, which is 30 over 100, of the number 242, if you multiply that out, you're going to get 72.6. You see how they just basically move this 100 over, and it becomes 2.42 times 30. Same thing here. So looking at, let's draw a picture. Let's use this. Let's look at example 1 on lesson 9, 9.1. And it says the wood nymphs and the maids gamboled and frolicked before the banquet began. If 70% of these were wood nymphs and 120 maids were present, how many wood nymphs came to the banquet? So first we're going to draw our picture. We know that this is 100%. Yes? So this is of the wood nymphs and the maids. Then they told us that 70% of those were wood nymphs, which would be 30% are going to be what? The maids. Are you with me? Then they told me that we had 120 maids. Yes? So we have to say what fraction part of the whole is the part. They want to know how many wood nymphs. Well, you have to have at least either the fraction or the whole or the part. You have to have 2 out of the 3 parts. If we did with the wood nymphs, do we have those? We can call it W. No. Do we have the fraction or the percentage? Yes, it's 0.70. Yes? Oops. Times. But do we have the part? 70% of the whole thing is the wood nymphs. Here, sorry, the wood nymphs goes over here as a part. No, we've got 2 variables, so we can't find what either one of these are. This would be the whole, this would be the wood nymphs, so we'll call it N. So let's look at what we do have. Well, we know 30%, that would be 0.3 times the whole equals, do we know how many mermaids or maids we have? Yes, we have 120. That's the part. They told us that. So now I have one variable, and I simply solve for that. I'm going to divide both sides by 30, or 0.3, so W is going to be 400. So we have 400 total, so 120 maids plus blank wood nymphs are going to give us 400 is our total. So the question asks, how many wood nymphs came to the banquet? Well, simply going to take 400. I'm going to minus the 120. So there's 280 wood members. And to check it, 280 plus 120 has to equal to 400. Let's do another one. Sometimes drawing a picture is easy. Sometimes drawing a picture is more confusing. But you need to break it down and know what you have. I like this particular one. Part over whole equals percent over 100. So let's look at the next example, 9.2. It says the harvest was cornucopian as it was 120% greater than last year. If the yield was 140,800 bushels, how many bushels were harvested last year? So let's just, if the harvest was blank, as it was 120% greater than last year. So last year, it was 100%. This year, it's 120% greater. So we have to add 120% to this to get what we are now. We have 220%. If the yield was, they told us that the yield of this was 140,800 is 220%, right? This is 100% of last year. We see that we begin with 100%, and the 120% increase gives us a 220%. So we take 220, we divide by 100 times last year, yes, gives us what we have this year. So we simply solve for Ly and you multiply by its reciprocal, which is 100 over 200. Cancel that out and you get Ly. The 0, 0, 0, 0 cancel. This cancels to 7,400. So last year, I did that math, excuse me, is 64,000 bushels. That's what we got. And it asks you, if the yield was 140,800 bushels, how many bushels were harvested last year? All right. Another way to look at this, they said, what's our part over our whole times the equals percent over 100? Well, we know that our percent is 220%. Let's try and see if it works out using that way. So we put 220% over 100. Do we know the Ly? Remember, this is the Ly. This is what you began with. So this is your whole. So I'm going to put Ly, or you can call it W. And our part, they told us that this year, this is how many bushels we have. 140,800, which happens to be the part. It's hard to see it because it's greater than the whole. The reason it's greater than the whole is the percentage is greater than 100%. So don't let that confuse you. We're used to seeing this as just 20%, and then this number is always going to be smaller than that number. Okay? So because of this particular formula, because this has percent, it's over 100, you simply just put in 220. You don't have to convert it to a decimal because that's what that 100 is for. So we're going to multiply both sides by Ly. So we want Ly in the numerator. Then we simply have 140,800 equals 220 Ly over 100. We want to get rid of, we want to solve for Ly, so we multiply both sides by 100 over 220. That's what my mistake was. Over 220. And if you do the calculations, you're going to get the same thing, 64,000. So that's another way of looking at it. If the first way was way too confusing, I like this part over whole equals percent over 100, but you have to draw your diagram and know what your part and your whole is. you started off with 100%. So this is your whole, LY. Your percent now, you increase by 120, so your percent is 220%. That's going to go right here. And always 100 goes there. And then your part, they told you, you produce this many bushels. So that is your part, even though it's going to be greater than your whole, goes here. And you simply solve for LY. And these are algebraic terms. That is it for lesson 9.